The man who's on next, our main speaker, Elliott Crossley, works for a company who've got a base in Sheffield and have done for over 40 years. Building Design Partnerships, BDP. Elliott, about 5 minutes ago, was stood in the corner in a Wonder Woman dress. So I'm pretty excited to see what he's going to bring now. He's worked on a fairly wide range of projects. You can see here, he's worked on things like Alderhay Hospital, and he's currently working on the new Houses of Parliament. I'd like you to give a massive round of applause and give your time to Elliott Crossley, who's going to talk about why changing making changes everything.
So, my name is Elliott Crossley. That better? And I'm an architectural technologist. So I work in architecture, and I look at how new and emerging technology can help us in a design environment to do a better job, whether that's to be more productive or to be more efficient, or just to make better buildings. And I live in beautiful Sheffield. Now, when Lee and James asked me to do this talk, after I'd said yes, they gave me 3 rules. One was, don't talk about what you do in too much detail. One was, don't talk about the company you work for, BDP. And the other was, don't talk about Autodesk. Thanks. That's everything that I ever talk about. So what I figured I'd take 20 minutes or so and just talk about things that are going on in the world that fascinate me. Game changers. So things that fascinate me. I'll talk about me. I'll talk about industry and revolution. I'll talk about Morgan Freeman and the best game changer football's ever seen, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And so, on that note, I want to take you back to Barcelona in 1999.
Manchester United, as they've done time and time again on this European run, have made it hard for themselves.
We'll do that again in a minute. I'm not a Man U fan, by the way, but I am a fan of British football. So one of the greatest football games of all time. Man U, who hadn't lost in 5 months, are 1-0 down against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. Right, and that 6th-minute goal, which you just about heard, seemed to have ended all their hopes of the perfect season of winning the treble. And the 90th minute, the fans watched broken-heartedly as Fergie threw everything at it. Millions are watching from home. And they faced an impossible challenge. The game moved into the 3 minutes of injury time, the last 3 minutes of the game. And their dreams were crushed. But this is a lesson in belief, in desire, and in sheer determination. And it's about changing perspective, because with an unbreakable spirit, they equalised. And then 2 minutes later, this guy sealed the most incredible comeback in football history.
Is this their moment? Beckham into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has done it! And nobody will ever win a European Cup final more dramatically than this.
So, when we bring people together with different backgrounds and different skills, we find a collective ability to influence change and to achieve the impossible. So, game changers. 3D printing totally democratized design. It meant that overnight, everybody everywhere became a product designer. Not necessarily a good product designer, but we could instantly make anything that we could imagine. And it meant that we weren't anymore bound by the tools that we used. 3D printing unlocks potential to be more imaginative in designing and in making. And what it means is, rather than the amount of things you make determining the price of the thing, like mass production, the price of the thing is determined by the amount of stuff used to make it. So complexity just became free, because if you want a new phone case, You can go at home, you can design the most simple or decorative thing you want, and you can send it to print. And you can prep the printer and swear at the printer and wrestle the printer for a bit, and then you'll get a new phone case. So yeah, complexity is now free. Now in architecture and construction, that is in essence product design, but a bit bigger, in fact quite a lot bigger. But that industry is really slow at picking up new ways of working. But it's also got the most to gain. The problem is that the world can't wait for construction. We've got a rising population. We will top 10 billion people on the planet within this lifetime. And urbanization means that 70% of those are going to live in cities by 2050. And what that means is that future demand for schools, for hospitals, for houses, for offices, for roads and transport, all of that is going to keep growing. That pressure is going to keep mounting. And so we need to build quicker, cheaper, and better than we ever have done before. And I think sometimes if you step back and reframe a problem, you get a load more perspective. Sometimes we're too close to how things are. You don't see the bigger picture. And you hear people say, you know, that's the way we've always done it, and that's a habit that we really need to kick. So my example is bricks, right? Why do we use bricks? And that's a clue. We use bricks because they're ergonomic, right? You can hold them in your hand. It means that Winston Churchill or anybody else can go and pick up a brick and they can start to build a wall. But what if man doesn't build the wall? What if a machine builds the wall? We've now developed drones that can go and pick up a brick and they can plonk it in its rightful place. And we've got robots now that can also spread mortar and finish the wall. So yes, they mean we can build a brick wall a bit quicker, arguably a bit quicker than a man can. But they just replicate what we currently do, and that isn't a game changer. The game changer is when you step back, you reframe, and you get some perspective. So bricks are made for human hands, right? Machines don't have human hands. That'd be weird. So if a machine is going to build a wall, why would you use bricks? We will see machines on building sites pretty soon. It's already happening. That will happen more and more. And like 3D printers with products, they will totally unlock potential for how we design and how we make. Because when we're not constrained by the tools, by the materials, by the bricks, we might create a whole new architecture. So we might come up with totally new things instead of walls, instead of floors and ceilings and windows. And it might breed a whole new kind of design. It changes all the rules. So change in making changes everything. And that's really exciting. It's a little bit scary, but it's really exciting. And a company that are doing that right now, Wikihouse, there's lots of things that they do that's really interesting. They basically help people build their own houses through an open source platform. Basically the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on a free transfer. And there's a couple of things why I bring them up, why I think they fit with tonight. One of them, there's a social responsibility angle to what they do. And one of their principles is to share global, manufacture local. And the other one is the chap that came up with this idea, Alistair Parvin. He studied at Sheffield. Some of you might know him. And they're all about empowering people to build their own low-cost, low-energy, high-performance homes without having to rely on developers who charge over the odds, take a hefty profit for something that is often fairly standard and mass-produced. And ultimately, they want communities to come together to build their own homes and neighborhoods and have that sense of ownership. And that happens because designers from all over the world contribute to this open source platform, and they create fully customizable flat pack modules that can be laser cut in timber somewhere near you, and that are really easily put together, and they come with instructions. So people with little or no experience can go and build their own house. And why I think this is fascinating is because it's modular construction, and modular construction is a reaction to something that's changing in our society. We're moving away from the permanence of bricks and mortar, and we're moving towards something much more temporary. Because we like the idea of upgrading things, plug and play. We like Lego, everybody likes Lego. Because it means you could swap out parts of your house, you could refurbish more cheaply, you could upgrade without having to move house, or without having to demolish buildings. And ultimately, it gives us much more flexibility. And in my work, it tends to be bigger stuff, more commercial stuff, schools and hospitals, and all this same sort of modular construction happens there as well. I might be getting too detailed in my work now, but yeah, we're good. So Lee mentioned Alderhay, the Children's Hospital in Liverpool. The contractor there built 15,000 different components off-site, which were then shipped in, bolted together. And they were things, heating and ventilation systems, there were huge stone panels for the wall, and even entire bathroom pods were shipped in. And that meant that the contractor built that hospital 20% quicker than anything they'd built before. But actually, that's not enough. In Brixton, in London, Brixton hit its annual air pollution limit in 5 days this year. So 5 days to kick out what it's supposed to kick out in a year. And that's a shocking reminder of the state of our environment. And actually, that whatever we choose to do, we've got to think about the impact that we have. The problem for construction is we can't build quicker, cheaper, better enough with the current way of doing things. You can only squeeze the system so far before the system breaks. And then you need a new system, hence Che behind me. So in industry, wholesale revolution rarely happens. There's too many big players, there's too much money involved, everyone's got too much to lose. What does happen tends to be known as innovation. And innovation is about when society's needs change. The problem you're trying to solve changes. And that often happens when we work across industries. When we bring fresh eyes, you've got no concept of the way we've always done it. And top of the league for that is Elon Musk. Right? He comes up with all these wacky ideas because he takes a fresh and usually quite a simplistic look at the world and comes up with insane ways of doing things better, or differently, not always better. And one of them insane ways is the Hyperloop. So some people probably know about this. This is where you fire a capsule from one place to another in a steel tube at 700 miles an hour, and it's got people in it. And that was it. That was their idea. That was their concept. But then they shared it. They open sourced that, and they said, here's an idea. It'd be good if anybody could look into this. And everybody kind of laughed. And then last year, somebody did.
All right, all parties ready for tests? Firing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire.
A couple of weeks ago, Richard Branson bought that company, so these are now called Virgin Hyperloop One. They've got 10 routes around the world that are potentially their first networks, and one of them is called the Northern Arc, which runs from Liverpool to Manchester to Leeds to Newcastle to Glasgow to Edinburgh. How's that for a northern powerhouse, eh? You get to Manchester, from Manchester to Leeds in 7 minutes. And the point is that 3 years ago, everybody laughed at that idea. And now, 3 years later, it's largely been proven, and it's quickly making HS2 look pretty obsolete. So these kinds of things are happening all over the place, in every industry. The impossible is becoming not only possible, but more and more likely, and that's changing everything. Now, I had my own game changer 18 months ago, and becoming a parent is a real game changer. It does a few things. It makes you a lot less selfish, because you've got somebody that actually properly depends on you. And it also makes you a lot more selfish, because every second that you get to yourself, you've got to make count. You've got to do something that you enjoy. And it makes you reevaluate your values, your purpose, and your life lessons, because one day you're going to have to tell your kids what they are. And I realized that I got into architecture because it was the easiest way to change the world. And not everybody that is in my field embraces technology, but I see it as a way to make those changes happen faster, and more importantly, in a more considered way, so change for the better. And I want to play another quick video that kind of summarizes the biggest challenge of our time, and it gets kind of a bit ethical, and there's a bit of morality in here, but yeah, you can deal with it, I'm sure.
One day, we will wake up to find we have literally changed the face of the earth. We have never faced a crisis this big, but we have never had a better opportunity to solve it. We have everything we need to wake up to a different kind of world. What is needed is a concerted effort. We can make today the day we turn toward the solutions we need. We can make today the day we chart a new course together. We have every reason in the world to act. We can't wait until tomorrow. You can choose today to make a world of difference.
Thanks, Morgan. Now I realize this is a party and this is getting a little bit heavy. So I'll close with a couple of things. One, if you fancy a read, this is fantastic. This is a book called Future Shock that was written in 1970, so it's almost 50 years old. But it's still incredibly relevant. And one of the quotes from that, I think, kind of sums up a lot of what I'm talking about here, that the illiterate of the future won't be those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. Because as we move forward, the world is changing, society is changing. We're going to face a whole load of new challenges. We're going to be, for me, we're going to be building in cities that are more densely populated than ever before. We're going to be building in new places that we've never built. We're going to build in space, right? Space as an industry is fascinating. You know, there are architects in the world now that are looking at how we build on Mars, how we create structures that generate and store energy in orbit and on the moon. And when you think about those kind of challenges, almost all learned knowledge goes out the window. It becomes irrelevant. We ain't going to build any brick walls on Mars. And so we need to harness the skills to become more adaptable, to be more flexible, and to come up with problem solving, come up with ways of problem solving in new and imaginative ways. And to do that, we need to bring together people from different backgrounds with different skills from different industries, and what better place than right here? You know, we've got people from all sorts of walks of life, all different skills and backgrounds and industries. So talk to each other, meet people you've not met, play with killer robots and pop balloons and do stuff that you've never done, and come up with the next insane idea, come up with the next flat pack house, the next Hyperloop, the next how to build on Mars, whatever it is. Because right here, we've got a collective ability to influence change and to achieve the impossible. Now, in the process of figuring out what to talk to you lot about, I've come up with my life lesson to my kid. So here it is. I have to bend down because he's like this big. Live life with two little people on your shoulders, one on each, right? On this one, have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, right, the game changer. He's curious, and he always asks why. He's revolutionary. He's a little bit irresponsible, but he has loads of fun, right? And then on this one, have a little tiny Morgan Freeman. Right? Not because he's wise or he reminds you to be conscientious or considerate, because all of that should come from you. But because with a little tiny Morgan Freeman on your shoulder, what else could you want in the world? What better is there than a tiny Morgan Freeman on your shoulder narrating your life? On that note, thank you very much. Enjoy yourselves.